This outstanding team showed the world what we can do when we come together and work as one. This was truly a partnership of neighbors committed to the common good in our hemisphere.
We are a successful team because we share the same ideals: respect for human rights, freedom, rule of law, and commitment to peace.
We are a successful team because we share the same ideals. We respect human rights, freedom, the rule of law, and the commitment to peace.
Behind the scenes in the Barracks, Brazil and the United States show an alliance that extends well beyond traditional diplomacy. The arrival of Brazilian military personnel in the United States reinforces the Pentagon's strategy of not allowing China to impose its ideology on the Brazilian armed forces. Even in the face of a turbulent political scenario, the militaries of Brazil and the United States continue to strengthen their cooperation at a pace that contrasts with the hesitant stance of the current Brazilian president. The military rapprochement is taking place discreetly but intensely, with joint training and strategic exchanges that leave no doubt about the importance of this partnership for Donald Trump's administration. Welcome to Life in the Barracks. The refusal of the American military to break ties with Brazil has a clear justification. South America remains a key piece in the geopolitics of the United States. For American generals, maintaining a strong and well-trained ally in the heart of the continent is vital to contain external influences, especially those coming from China and Russia. While the Brazilian government shows ambiguity in international relations, the armed forces follow their own path, prioritizing technical agreements, joint operations, and shared intelligence. The logic is clear. The global scenario demands concrete preparation. The military recognizes the United States as a key partner in this regard. Both in the field of training and in the exchange of sensitive information, the Americans continue to place big bets on Brazil. And this investment translates into concrete actions such as joint observation missions, logistical support in remote areas, and the constant presence of officers in strategic exchanges, especially in areas like jungle operations and electronic warfare. The Brazilian armed forces use various strategic systems and military equipment of American origin, especially in the fields of aviation, communications, and surveillance. The Brazilian Air Force, for example, operates aircraft such as the C-130 Hercules and the more modern KC-390, which, although developed by Embraer, features partnerships and American components. In addition, Brazil is part of cooperation programs such as CIVAN, which is the Amazon surveillance system, structured with strong technological support from the United States, including radars and communication systems. In the naval sector, the Brazilian Navy bought SH-16 Seahawk helicopters and United States-made missiles. In the Army, interoperability includes weapons, armored vehicles, and command and control systems compatible with NATO standards, which strengthens operational alignment with the Americans in joint exercises and international missions. The behind-the-scenes moves at the Pentagon indicate that the United States intends to further strengthen this bond. The Brazilian presence on American soil for specialized training demonstrates that Brazil, despite diplomatic uncertainties, still enjoys respect and priority among the main Western allies. For active duty officers, the message is clear: Brazil cannot isolate itself from the military structures of the West. Americans also know losing Brazil to Eastern influence would be an irreversible strategic error. That's why they continue to offer infrastructure, technology, and doctrine, even if the president of Brazil doesn't show any interest in strengthening the country's defenses. Cooperation between the military extends even to sensitive areas, such as cyber defense, where the exchange of digital threat containment techniques has been quietly growing. Brazilian technicians have been trained to act proactively in situations of cyber warfare, a new frontier of modern combat. CIA activity in Brazil has increased in recent months. Officially, it's about aiding cross-border investigations. Unofficially, sources indicate that agents are closely monitoring the advance of Chinese companies and investments in strategic sectors of the Brazilian economy. The actions of American intelligence aim to identify movements that could compromise the economic and political stability of the continent. This includes monitoring technological partnerships, corporate mergers, and even disinformation campaigns funded by Beijing. Recently, a classified report indicated concern about the presence of shell companies linked to Beijing in areas near Brazilian military facilities. The suspicion is that these companies serve as points for collecting sensitive data, a warning that reinforces the importance of counterintelligence work. The Brazilian army, although it does not acknowledge it publicly, has strengthened protection measures around command centers, strategic units, and bases with an international presence. The goal is to limit foreign agents' access to critical information while maintaining the necessary transparency with its North American partners. The Pentagon continues to send instructors and military specialists to assist the Brazilian armed forces on several fronts. The current priority is to strengthen preparedness for hybrid conflicts, scenarios that involve physical, digital, and psychological attacks simultaneously. This will be the largest joint military training between Brazil and the United States, focusing on combat in the Caatinga, an environment similar to the Middle East. The event will be more than symbolic. It sends a clear message to those who underestimate this military alliance's strength. Behind the scenes, there are already talks about expanding the scope of these joint trainings in the coming years. The focus would be on including troops from other Latin American countries, turning Brazil into a center of excellence for hemispheric training under American supervision. Meanwhile, concern is rising in ideological sectors of the Brazilian government. Left-wing deputies accuse the military of submission to American imperialism. But inside the barracks, this narrative is considered outdated. Pragmatism prevails. The country's security requires cooperation with those who possess the most advanced technology and doctrine in the world. Brazilian and United States troops share ties that extend beyond the military. Experience sharing also covers logistics, engineering, signal intelligence, and drug trafficking prevention. Each advancement in this bilateral relationship strengthens Brazil's operational autonomy as it gains access to resources and knowledge that would take decades to develop on its own. It's important to remember that this cooperation is not new. Since World War II, the ties between the two armies have been solidified, surviving through different governments and political circumstances. The current phase only reaffirms the historic commitment between the two largest military powers on the continent. While the media spotlight is focused on the diplomatic disputes between Donald Trump and the Brazilian president, it is behind the scenes in the military barracks that the future is being shaped. Brazil is at a crossroads. It can take the lead in regional security or become vulnerable to the influence of Eastern powers like China. In a way, the arrival of Brazilian troops in the United States puts subtle but significant pressure on the Brazilian government, discouraging any attempt to weaken the historic military alliance between the two countries. In an increasingly polarized international scenario marked by rising tensions, cutting ties with the world's greatest power would be, at the very least, a strategic recklessness. Seeking autonomy and national strengthening does not require hostility toward old partners. On the contrary, maintaining balanced relations with both the United States and China demonstrates diplomatic maturity and economic vision, essential elements for projecting Brazil as a relevant global player. Here on Life in the Barracks, you stay up to date with everything happening in the military world. Leave your like, subscribe, and watch one of the videos appearing on your screen. Forward, fighters! See you next time!